Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Now last week our discussion was on dispute resolution, dialogue and consultation. Now this week we shall bring you the concluding part of that topic. And tonight our analysts will extend the conversation from different perspectives. But before we go into it, let's get to see this report by Musbau and Wahab.
Our economy is going through a tough patch and you are being hurt by it, I know.
A clear understanding of the effects of a fuel subsidy removal on Nigerians. The citizens continue to feel the impact as cost of living rises steeply, particularly the cost of food items and transportation. The federal government has continually acknowledged the hard times which it describes as a momentary sacrifice for the better days ahead. But then, responsive to the socio-economic situation, the government instituted various measures to reduce the burden on the citizenry. It began with the release of assorted grains from the National Strategic Reserve distributed to Nigerians. Apart from the 35,000 naira wage award paid to federal workers for 6 months, the government recently completed a deal with the labor unions which saw the minimum wage increased from 30,000 to 70,000 naira. In addition, the salaries and wages review interval was reduced from 5 years to 3 years. Also, over 160,000 passengers across the country benefited from the end-of-the-year transportation subsidy program. The government provided free train service and a 50% subsidy on transport fares to passengers traveling on 30 routes serviced by bus operators. While the government is finalizing arrangements for the release of CNG-powered vehicles, it recently directed relevant agencies to facilitate improved access to conversion kits and service centers across the country.
Will continue to do
the latest of the intervention in the works from the center is the distribution of 740 trucks of bags of rice across the country. The 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory are now in receipt of 20 trucks each. Standing on its principle of inclusiveness, the federal government says it is putting measures in place to ensure that this batch of intervention gets to the targeted most affected Nigerians. Musbau and Wahab.
Well, that report sets the tone for tonight's discussion. Let me introduce our guests tonight. We're glad to be joined by the Director General, the National Orientation Agency, Larry Isaunilu. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Right.
Thank you.
Let me also welcome to this discussion Misbah Lawandidi. He is a founder and former president, Para-Soccer Federation of Nigeria. Thanks for being with us here.
Thank you.
Right. We're also joined tonight by Salim Omali, Executive Vice Chairman, Kaduna State Peace Commission. It's good to see you.
Cyril and Nigerians.
Thank you. And joining us via Zoom from London is Daniel Buala, legal practitioner and policy analyst. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
All right. Well, as you know, the nature of this program, at some point in time, it goes interactive. It means you can join in the discussion in the studio. But when it's that time, we'll remind you of the process and the procedure. For now, let's begin to look at the issues. We started this conversation last week, and we're continuing this week. And so to start off tonight, let's turn to the Director General of the National Orientation Agency. In the last few days, there's been apprehension in the land about a proposed national protest, upcoming protest. And most of those who are holding some misgivings about it just fear that, yes, it's been said to be a peaceful protest, But sometimes what starts off as a peaceful protest can end with some form of violence, and that's going by the experience of Nigeria many years and many times over. What are your thoughts about this, Mr.?
Well, those who believe that the protest might turn out otherwise, they have a well-placed, fear about this. I mean, experience is the best teacher. We have experiences in this country, not just now, even during the military. It's easy to start a protest, but by the time you start, it's not entirely, within the control of those who start it. In the past, when you have this kind of protest, the comfort is when you have people that you can identify as the champions of the protest. And you know their antecedent, you know that they are not the kind of people who are going to, wage, war, so to say, on the populace. Because by the time you go back to what happened during NSAS, that was war, practically, that was waged, against the people of this country. So, but you are in a situation now that you cannot even identify who are the proponents, who are the champions of this protest. And the few ones that we can see who are talking about it, especially on the social media, are people that by the time you go into the conversation they have been involved in over time, there are people who have actually been calling for violence. So for this country to have that comfort, that they are not going to, the original intention is not to wreak havoc on the rest of us. I think that there is no way to support that. So protest at any point in time, it is allowed. This government especially has no problem whatsoever against people who choose to express their opinion. It's within their right. And if you also look at the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself, only a few people remain on the surface of the earth today who has his credentials when it comes to, stating his opinion both privately and publicly. He has led several protests himself, but you cannot say at any point in time that the protest he was involved in had any form of violence whatsoever. So a lot to say about protest, as we go along.
All right, thanks so much. We'll come to those issues as we go along. But let's come to Ms. Bao Lawandidi and say, what are your views about what's...
Well, I think my views is that, despite the fact that we have right to do some things, but for peace to reign, it is better for us to allow it to go. Because if we encourage youth, look at what has happened in just Lagos about a few days. People who, you can't even identify them. People who their target are to go and burgle into people's businesses, not even government property. Youth who nobody is controlling them. I think the best thing with the situation Nigeria is in now, I will prepare that the protest should be held on for now. The president just came in a year, and I think he has more years to work, to help Nigeria out of the problem we have. The economic issue, the economic challenges we have, look at the way he has started tackling issue one after the other. To me, from about 2 months ago, almost every day we are seeing progress from the presidency. Either youth loan or so many things to caution the hardship that Nigerians are in too. I think, to me, I'm not even supporting the issue of the protest, and I will appeal to the general public to not participate in it, because the important thing is that for us to be peaceful is the ultimate objective of this country. For instance, now people with disability, I have seen a lot of protests. Even during Abuja, I was in Lagos, I know how difficulties people with disability of this country face in terms of any challenges. We can't run away. We can't go and find what to eat. We can't do anything. So the best thing for us is for you to understand the president is ready to compromise and take away the challenges that Nigerians are facing. So to me, the best thing I will advise that the youth should hold on. Let's allow president to maybe have about 2 years, so that we must understand the policies and see the progress report. Look at things that has been happening now all over, and I think I am not in the support of the protest, because it's not good for Nigeria. We should apply other dialogue means so that we can be able to question the hardship that we're facing and the security challenges, the economy. Look at the challenges of the currency and so on. So we should allow the president for now and his government to settle down and also plan way forward, especially for the youth. He always, agitate for youth progress, and I think we should give him time to think about it very well.
All right, thank you so much. And let's come to the Vice Chairman of the Kaduna State Peace Commission, Salim Omali, and hear your views on this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Cyril, once again for continuing this dialogue over 2 weeks. And I think that's a clear demonstration of the commitment of the NTA. And I can see several other media stations in the country taking this issue of engagements, promoting valuable discourse with various sections of the society. And over the past 2 weeks, I could see also our religious organizations from the various faiths and denominations, the traditional institutions, the youth groups themselves, academics, other shapers of public opinion coming out much more vocal in this case, initiating the discourse, dissecting the issues and the challenges as they are, and proffering viable alternatives to some of these issues and challenges that we are speaking about. Of course, it's not in doubt that there are issues, there are challenges. The economy is really biting on the ordinary citizens, in fact, everybody. But we all recognize that this is not just a Nigerian problem, it's a global problem. And some of these global challenges do occur. If for those that are a bit elderly, like Cyril and many other Nigerians, you all know what happens during some of the major droughts that Nigeria witnessed in the 1960s, in the 1970s, and even in the 1980s. For us as very young people, I could still recall the drought of the 1983-1984, the food shortages, the inadequacies, the difficulties that people had to pass through. But it's all became history over time. So for young people of this country, they should recognize that yes, there are challenges. These challenges are natural. They come along the economic and social development of every society. What do we do in terms of those issues, in terms of those challenges? It's to come together as citizens, to sit down, discuss these issues, find ways of overcoming the problems and challenges. It's not just caused by a government or the government or a section of the government. Like I said, there are global challenges. There are also have to do with a lot of things that have to do with security and insecurity, with some of the general regional challenges within the Sahel, within the West African sub-region. All of this contribute in one way or the other in heightening some of the problems we are facing in the country. The way out is for us to come and sit down, engage our young populations, engage the political leadership, and our intellectual community, our business community, to come together, discuss this, and we find sustainable pathways of overcoming these challenges. And for us, we think from the discourse that has been going on over the recent weeks, I think we are taking that path, and we are appealing and calling on our youthful populations across the country to come to the table. Let's discuss and diagnose these issues.
Okay, thanks so much. Let's now go over to London and link up with Daniel Bwala, who has heard the contributions of those here in Abuja. And it's the same question we're putting to you. Let's start off by getting your views on the apprehension across the land that the protests might lead to violence. And let's hear you.
Right. So thank you for having me. I think at this point it is almost impossible to stop the youth from going out to protest because we are right at the door. But I think one of the reasons why people felt that this protest shouldn't go on or that it is not necessary is because we have all known that the characteristics of a peaceful protest is, number one, identifiable leadership. There has to be people that will represent the group, and that means the people will also be willing to negotiate with government. Because without leadership to negotiate with government, it means the protest cannot be defined and it will be endless. Number two, there will be specific and definite demands. People don't just flow to the street until they have specific demands that they have and they want. If you look at the planned protests, so to speak, there are many groups. Some of the groups, their demands are antithetical to our law, like asking for the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu, when we have judicial system in the country that is already dealing with that case. And then you have others, their demands are quite opposite of the other. So who do you negotiate with from the perspective of government? And of course, the third characteristic is that a peaceful protest must have a people whose demands are very definite and they are also willing to negotiate with government. For example, the Nigerian Labour Congress, with the back and forth with the government, they're able to have a good deal, at least a good deal for a start. But without the head or leadership of that group, you may not be able to, have a direction. The fourth one is timelines and deliverables. Any protest that is peaceful must be a protest that comes with timelines and with deliverables. What destroyed NSAS was because they came out with points, I think 10 points. They sent the governor of Lagos, who made President Buhari in Villa. President Buhari agreed and conceded to all of their demands, but he said he needed time. The guys in the street said they were not going to leave the street until all of those needs are met. And some of their demands were such that it required time, required consultation, required government involvement in terms of infrastructure. Some even required regulatory reforms. And so when the people say they won't leave the street, then you know that that protest is not built to be peaceful. And of course, the last one, any peaceful protest must have zero tolerance to violence. Why people believe that this one house will have a problem of violence is because the build-up to the protest, if you look at social media and mainstream, those who are calling for the protest and are talking about it, the kind of talking points that they are building are not talking points for the purposes of peace. Some have asked for the burning of infrastructure of government. Some have asked for the identification of lawmakers' address and their homes so they can, lynch them. So, and then, of course, if you come to the northern part of Nigeria, they use cliche and words that are suggestive of anger and vengeance. So with that, and based on intelligence that is coming through the various law enforcement, we all know once you flood the street for that kind of protest, the usual thing is that unscrupulous element will be able to hijack it. And because of extreme hunger in the land, you are likely to find that majority of the people will now target shopping malls, will target shops, will target street homes, and then it will now result in the evil act of people. And that's why people felt that this protest shouldn't be. From my own perspective, before I defer to the other speakers, I feel that the protest is unnecessary because some of the demands that these protesters table, the president has already begun, implementing that. They talked about hunger. The president ordered the release of truckloads of food to the states of the federation. They talked about poor wage for workers. The president with the Labour Congress have arrived at a conclusion. Now it is a low minimum wage of 70,000. They talked about, for example, unemployment, and the president talked about the comprehensive plan that he has to take care of that unemployment. They talked about transportation. There is the CNG perspective that would ameliorate for the hardship. And then there are many more other policy, implementation strategy that the president has unveiled, all in a bid to meet up with the demands of the people. So we felt that if you are already influencing policy of government, then you should be able to know that you have actually achieved one part of your protest, which is to get government to begin to listen to your demand. But I strongly believe there are unscrupulous elements that want to use that, thinking they will cause a regime change.
All right, I'd just like to stay with you for a moment, and for two reasons. The first is to underline the fact that those who want to protest, it is well within their rights to protest against anything. You don't take that from them, do you?
I don't take that at all because it is constitutional.
Okay, fine. The other aspect of it is some people who have expressed rather strong views, the ones that you'd say they have not been very civil in their calling for a protest or a demonstration, are saying those things out of anger for the reason that they felt initially security agencies were issuing threats to them. And if you go by the history of some of the violent protests that have taken place here, sometimes the protests start off on a very low-key, very peaceful note, but some overzealous security agencies step in, and that's what angers people. Do you see that in this situation?
I agree with you that in the past we had that, where overzealous security forces will attempt to, stretch. They go beyond the red line and then it results in chaos. But there are other times also that the protesters themselves will incite the law enforcement. Take, for example, if you look at the case in Kenya, you saw how individuals come face to face with the army and the police, and they were pushing their eyes and their nose. These guys are not wearing uniform for fun. They are not acting drama with the uniform. The uniform is a representation of authority. And once you try to assault a law enforcement officer, definitely they will react. But beyond that, usually when a protest, like I said earlier, it doesn't have a definite timeline, it leads to frustration, which will then give room to unscrupulous elements to come. You should be able to talk and then give time for government to act. It's part of labor union. But because protests most of the times are not organized, so you don't have a definite direction. And in the course of this celebration or in the course of this demonstration, you will find that some people, their emotions will get the better part of them. Now, this is the danger with the one of Nigeria. The extreme hunger, already, the consequence of hunger is anger. That's why they say a hungry man is an angry man. There is no way in hell when these people flood to the street and the protest starts that they will not try, especially those who are under extreme hunger, they will not try to loot shops. No way in hell. And so it is a law enforcement's duty to stop them. In the course of doing that, you are likely to find that emotions is going to, flare, and then it will create a problem. Now, you made the point about law enforcement already threatening them. I have carefully followed, especially the Department of State Services. Before they began issuing statements about identification of those who are planning, to foment trouble, they waited until those, kind of talking points on social media were aggregated. And if you look at that, majority of those who are causing, who are instigating the chaos, do not live in Nigeria. And so they feel that even if the country goes in flames, they are not affected. But those ones that are on the street and in the everyday struggle in Nigeria, most often than not, they are not the one necessarily calling for violence. And social media is one platform that can be manipulated by the manipulation of algorithm, by the sharing of fake news. Today, I had to put out a tweet talking about the things to watch out for and not be fooled by it as the days come by. You are going to find past videos of police brutality, and they will say, breaking news, it is happening now. You are going to find a situation where people are going to be looting, and they will say, breaking news, it is happening somewhere. They will go and identify places where they're expecting people to be riled up. And they will put an old video and they said, in Kano, somewhere in Kano right now, protest has begun. Even the Kano people are picking. All of these things must be verified. Otherwise, they are the easy way. That's why January 6th in the United States happened, because of fake news. And the infrastructure to call that we do not have in the country. So people who say that we are begging the people not to protest, let's find a peaceful solution, they are well aware of the vulnerabilities in the third world. And this just happened in Kenya not long ago. So there is this fear and apathy that is likely to find its way in Nigeria. That is why you find this mixed emotion about it. But it's the right of people to protest peacefully.
All right, thank you very much. We'll return to you. Back here, DG. Well, this is a situation where you have some people who bent on expressing their feelings, some who are angry over so many things. Then you also have the mix of those who are waiting to cash in on whatever happens, the standoff, the face-off between the state and those expressing views. And how do you begin to douse all of these?
Yeah, well, in the last 1 month or thereabouts, since this announcement came out, and we must also understand that the initial announcement or notification regarding this protest was on the spur of what is going on in Kenya. Those early announcers were, pointedly referring to Kenya, and Kenya was still violence. It's not protest anymore, and a lot of regret, even within the circle of the people who started it in Kenya. So, so far, expectedly, and there are no surprises in that, this government has handled this very, very well, demonstrating that this is a government that understands the real meaning of democracy, that is part of the right of the people to express misgivings, whether privately or publicly, collectively or individually. And so people are stepping out to say, we want to protest, and the government has continued to say, yes, it's within your right to do so. But there are other issues we must consider. We must consider that there are opportunists. There are people who are waiting in the wings, and to ensure that this goes beyond the, the plan that those who have good intentions, are working towards. We saw what happened just some few years ago when practically Lagos was nearly burnt down. And nobody wants to see that. A lot of people lost, loved ones in the process. People are still going about with the scars of what happened during that period. And so to do anything close to that now, it would be irresponsible of the government to fold its arms. And it would be irresponsible of even the citizens not to, ask for some form of restraint. And that's what has been going on. So far, government has done marvelously well. I listened to the Inspector General of Police, his statement on this. He was clear about it, that you can protest. But again, we must understand that people who have the right to protest also should know that other people have the right not to protest. Mm-hmm. And they have the right to go about their businesses without let or hindrance. And so, in any way that the protest will happen, they also must, give other people their right. Street procession would not be in the interest of people who just want to go about their businesses. And protest, we also must understand, is not only when you go on the street. People go on social media to say all sorts of things. It's protest. When you express your opinion strongly on social media or even the mainstream media, you're protesting. Whichever platform that you take advantage of to express your opinion is protest. So there are many other ways we can protest in the interest of this country, in the interest of the peace, of this country, in the interest of the fact that we are in a precarious situation and we don't need any trigger. And I can imagine a lot of people who are waiting. Already they have targeted what shop to loot. And so they are waiting in the wings, just waiting for any little opportunity, then they storm. But let me also say, sadly, that a lot of people merchants in this country, traders, dealers, in the last 3 weeks have stopped taking goods. And that's very sad. Go to manufacturers now, they have their warehouses stockpiled. People are not taking goods to reduce the stock they have. So in case anybody invades their warehouses or store, so people are moving their things from their shops. We are not at war. So to create that kind of situation of apprehension and put people who have not offended anyone in this kind of situation that they cannot even do their businesses, it's not what anybody who means well for this country will want to, pursue. So for me, the country, the government especially, has responded well, has emphasized the fact that they have the right to protest, has emphasized the right of people, to express themselves. And more importantly, what is the protest all about? the common refrain, bad governance. I don't know where that is coming from. Because in the last 1 year, I can't pinpoint where bad governance is coming from. There are things that have happened within the last 1 year of this administration that for 3 decades we have been on it. But within 1 year, they have happened. If we know the importance of student loan, that the pressure is taken off parents and guardians, they don't have to struggle to go look for resources to pay their wards or children's school fees, and you can pay no matter who you are in this country, and you also have some stipends for upkeep. This is beyond imagination. This is what we should be commending this government for. And in whatever advanced country or nation that we are pointing at, student loan is a common thing. It's one of those things that they provide to ease the burden, because there are cost burdens. And tuition is one of the main cost burdens. And so when you ease that, then people should applaud such government. And we are talking of consumer credit scheme, which means you don't have to run helter-skelter to go look for money to buy a car, to pay your rent, to buy electronics or appliances in your homes. These are the things that are killing the people. You know, your out-of-pocket expenses are driven by the demand for all of these things. But when the system is created for you to be able to achieve this without having to sweat, you can postpone, payment. Once you have a gainful employment, you can acquire all of these things and have. So in a few years' time, we are going to have the return of middle class. Because that's how you build middle class. Because it's having these basic things of life, the improvement in your standards of living, is what creates the middle class. And this is going to strengthen our economy. It's going to create the dynamism, within the business cycle. So I think for me, when you say protest against bad governance, I'm wondering what that actually means. The kind of infrastructure and the resources that are going into infrastructure in the last 1 year, that we can see that contracts are being awarded and they are being, cash backed immediately. It's not just awarded on paper. We can all see this happening. I'm trying to, put my finger on exactly what bad governance. And then when you now say, days of rage, I don't know what other meaning to give to rage than violence or chaos or creating, conditions to break laws or breakdown of law and order in the country. So we must be very careful in as much as we have a democratic government in place, and we have a Democrat in the State House as president, who is going to do his best to ensure that nobody is denied his right to express his misgivings. We also have a duty to this country, individually and collectively, to stand up to protect the country and to talk to people who want to do this, for whatever reason, to take some other options.
Well, in addition to the conversation in the studio, we have a number of reports, and let's take this one from Kaduna.
The organized society is a forum of people from different backgrounds, orientation, and ideologies for the purpose of achieving common goal. Misunderstanding and disputes are part of human life in its daily interactions. However, the ability to resolve these through dialogue remains the surest way towards the attainment of a peaceful society.
And it is only through dialogue would you be able to provide for the most conducive environment whereby so many other things will gain momentum within the society.
People will sit together at a round table. They will discuss the issue. They will come together. Maybe the other person will leave his high horse, come down. The other person too will leave it and come down. Then they will meet at a meeting point. At that meeting point, that's where the dialogue takes place.
Dialogue has been a cultural phenomenon in Nigeria. It has been a traditional practice from ancient times, and we have vast array of knowledge, indigenous practices All we need to do is to revive this, to research into this, and to train our young populations, to train our youths, bring in our women, particularly our numerous mothers that are contributing daily in dialogue at the home, in dialogue at the communities.
In the same vein, dialogue has scriptural backing.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for instance, the Quran said, if two groups of believers are in conflict, Allah said, make settlement among them, reconcile between them. How do you make the settlement? By bringing them together, sitting them down, calming them down, allowing each and every one of them to, say his mind. And then from there, you can be able to say, okay, now, but this is what is the best thing.
And 2 Corinthians made also a clear, he said, Christ came to reconcile us unto God and giving us the ministry of reconciliation to reconcile one another. There are two things there. One, to be safe. The second one, to live in peace and harmony with your fellow human and your creator.
Dialogue as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism remains most desired tool in a peace-building process for a harmonious and peaceful society.
Right, that report from Kaduna. Let's take this other one from Akure.
Nigeria, a nation characterized by its ethnic, religious, and political diversity, often faces the potential for disputes. Research indicates that while various approaches are employed to address these conflicts, they do not always produce the desired outcome. Experts, however, believe that dialogue can help communities tackle underlying issues before they escalate, thereby promoting long-term peace and stability.
Creating a safe and inclusive environment. What that implies is having an environment where people of diverse culture, diverse status, different religion and ethnic can freely rub minds together. Safe and inclusive space. Ability to be able to resolve conflict at the communal level has a long way to determine what is going to happen in the larger society.
Investigations also show that traditional leaders play vital roles in conflict resolution within their communities by leveraging their deep understanding of local traditions and values, maintaining social order, and resolving disputes amicably.
Once there's conflict, it's easier for the Oba to invite the people involved and make sure that they come to dialogue or talk to them one-on-one. Because we live with them, we are the grassroots, we are closer to the people. So settling issues becomes very, very easy.
Religious leaders in their submission emphasized fostering harmonious relationships through dialogue is essential for peace and progress.
Dialogue is a tool, it's a means by which we can be able to live together peacefully in our community. So as Muslims, we used to employ dialogue, very well in our dealings, because it is a way that will bring progress.
It is a gateway to peace and development, whether religion, family, or nation. If you want peace, if you want progress, you must embrace dialogue. Even when there's crisis, embrace dialogue.
Those respondents agree that as Nigeria continues to navigate its diverse landscape, embracing dialogue as the primary means of dispute resolution is crucial for sustainable development and harmony. In Akure, Abiola Rio.
All right, back here in the studio, and let's come to Ms. Bao Lawandidi. Yes, agencies have put out appeals to those who supposedly are the organizers of this protest. One thing that has been underlined is the matter of coming to hold a discussion on whatever issues, whatever grievances from the experiences of the past. Let's talk about what gains can come out of such discussions. You talk about times gone when discussions were held, negotiations. While some say one of the biggest issues has been a mutual suspicion. People always believe that the government is us against them. Have you seen that happen?
No, I did not see that, because I want to believe all of us came together and bring in the government. It is collective responsibility for us to bring in government, and I think no good government can do anything for anybody, not even the future leaders, the youth. I think I'm looking at it, the best thing is for us to come to a table and ask the youth and ask Nigerians, what exactly can we do to put things right? Sometimes I know people develop angers because some policies are not being of their own thinking or their way of thinking. They don't understand why such policies. I think the best thing is for us to ask, if there is any new policy, why government you are bringing this at this time? Now it's late for government to explain. I can see the religious leaders went to the president and the Minister of Planning explained. We have reason to do A, B, C, D, and all in the good of the nation. And if we all understood why he said this and we now come in agreement with him, I think there's no any problem. Dialogue has already established. But if in a situation whereby the Nigerians see some policies is not worthy of being there, we will now advise, not come or establish confrontation with the government, but rather to advise the government why not do A, B, C, D. And I will also think it is good for Nigeria to have, kind of a vision that we had before, maybe vision 2000 and the rest, and make sure we follow it. Like other countries, we may have vision of 100 years, but the differences from the politics, if you are party A, party B comes, the nation first. Leave your own ideology to go to what can lead the nation to a peaceful and economic development. And I think if the youth and all of us understand government, we should, come to dialogue and also agree within ourselves and say, okay, this is the way forward. I always, been amazed with the president, sincerely, for establishing a lot of progress or programs for the youth. A lot of progress, or programs for the women and youth with disability and people with disabilities. Just yesterday, I saw that something happened in FCT. Do you say, no, you have established women secretariat. We need it. Within one day, just one day, the president gave approval that youth secretariat should be established, just to have a fix with the community. And I think, for me, we have a leader or we have a government who listens to Nigerians. And we should also support it and come to dialogue and agree that, okay, now, the youth, we don't have job. Good. Okay, if I, for instance, am a person with disability, I have established my business. What of you? What of you? What of a woman or anybody can do it? Because we cannot be getting employed by government, all of us. I have seen a professor doing barbing, just to make sure that apart from salary, he has now added to his own, profit or whatever he's doing. The youth should now, or the government should bring in some policies whereby after your own degree or whatever you have, please, you can be a tailor. You can be a business. Let us be industrious. Have a look at what China and other places are doing. We are almost managing the nation through our individual businesses, which is more better for us. The hardship we are complaining and so on, if you look at Nigeria of yesterday, it's different from now. Now, a lot of programs, a lot of businesses, online businesses and so on, everybody is engaged. Now people are making their point to make money. So I think I will be of the opinion that we should understand the government first, and government should understand us, and also come to dialogue and have a plan for the nation. In the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, in the next, maybe I'm sure the president may have 3 years plan before his, next contest. Let him, let Nigerians say, you don't need to campaign. We have seen your work. Oh yeah, go ahead. It's better for us than to establish, okay, bad governance. From where? Who is bad? A government of Kenya. Where did we get bad? So I think we better understand, especially the youth. I am advising that we should understand, rather than coming to protest on the street, please stay at home is another method of protest.
Well, let's come to Saleh Mamali. And quite a number of times you've heard people say that on both sides of either those who are dissatisfied with certain services or those who provide such services, there's always a usual high rhetoric. They've asked for a toning down of the rhetoric, cut down on statements, but you don't see that happening. And sometimes this makes a situation worse. And what are the mechanisms for addressing such situations?
Yeah. Taking very hardline positions.
Yes.
Yeah. Usually in negotiations we say we shift from the positions to the interest. But for the moment you can see that a lot of people are just sticking to their positions. This is what we do. We want to have a demonstration because of A, B, C, and D, and they stick to that. And then there are also others, but within the civil spaces and within the government that are saying no, do not protest. But I think significantly we have not seen a major hardline position from the government, for example, saying that we will absolutely not allow this. We have seen much more of appeal. And I think that is quite positive at the moment. So basically, when we need to organize something like a protest, like a demonstration, like other speakers have earlier mentioned, first of all, you need a very clear leadership. A leadership with a clear constituency of the participants in that protest or in that demonstration. If you do not have a clearly defined constituency and a clearly defined leadership, then you leave it open, and so it becomes so wild and beyond the control of any other person. So we must have this. If we do not have this, then we cannot organize a peaceful and an organized protest that can lead us to a particular outcome. That's first of all. Secondly, again, the rhetoric sometimes that is coming out from the planners, from some sections of the social media, is these incitements to violence. And the fact that many of them, the information technology has allowed anybody from anywhere in the world to post information as if he is here with you. And these external influences are one of the most dangerous signs that we are seeing. Many people are doing most of these incitements from outside the shores of the country. The third one is the manipulation of the media space, especially the social media, where you can broadcast information, you can provide narratives that are not true, and which are very difficult to verify immediately. And with our young population so much subscribed to the social media narratives, they are likely to be misled. So these three things are quite a challenging fact. The next one is the structuring of the protest or the demonstration itself. Usually in such demonstrations, they will say, this is the space that we want all protesters to move to stay within this space and to conduct your peaceful protest within that space. You cannot say that you're going to have a demonstration and you're going to block a road or a rail station. This is not labor unions. For example, labor unions do that, even though it is not the best. They can protest, not by even locking airports or locking rail stations or motor parks, but by withdrawing their services, for example, like the National Union of Road Transport Workers. They can say that, okay, from this day to this day, we are not going to open up our garages. But if you're organizing a protest and you are not, the members of the National Union of Road Transport Workers are not members. Maybe the Nigerian Union of Workers, like the NLC, are not your members. You cannot go and block, or you cannot go and block offices of government. You cannot go and block banks. You cannot block highways. So you have to get a safe space where you can go and sit within that space to organize your protest, since you are none of these labor organizations. So these are very important ingredients that the demonstrators or those planning the protest need to recognize, that if they want to do it, they must define their leadership very clearly, their constituents, who are those people that are coming to join their demonstrations very clearly, and where are those spaces that they are going to do. And in those spaces, there must be open spaces where they will not infringe the rights of other citizens, and where the safety of every public and non-public property and assets of all citizens, as well as national infrastructure and assets within every locality, are protected. So these are essentials. And once these are not there, I think the state has a duty and a responsibility to protect other citizens, to protect national assets, to protect all of these things. I think you earlier mentioned about some of these the security agencies acting either aggressively or beyond outside the laws of engagement. Yes, of course, that has been a trend in the previous years, but I think in the recent years we have seen a significant deviation from that type of practice from the Nigerian security establishments. I think they have become much more civil, much more imbibing the tenets of democracy, because we have seen, for example, in the disputes between labor unions, in some of the protest marches by some of the organized unions, even the students' unions that used to be very violently oriented in the past years. In the more recent years, during this democratic dispensation, we have seen some of these protests going on more peacefully than it used to be, except the NSAS, which was the only one throughout the tenure of this, the return of democracy from 1999 to date, that we have seen some of these peaceful protests by organized institutions becoming chaotic. And if you look at the NSAS, it does not satisfy some of these essential requirements because the leadership was not clear, and the motive as well as the spaces where this protest will be carried out were not observed. And then they went ahead to block the rights of other citizens and to target public infrastructure. So these are the challenges. So these are the worries. Now, coming back, I think there are sufficient platforms for dialogue at the moment. And we will want both the government and the representatives from the various constituencies to, as a matter of fact, move to their various constituencies, organize, so that all of these people that have this dissatisfaction can come to their constituencies. We need to see the members of the House of Representatives, the Senates, the members of the State Houses of Assembly, and happily, most recently, the ruling by the Supreme Court and the fact that the local government autonomies have been, strengthened. So now local government councillors at the ward level, which is the lowest unit of governance, as well as the local government chairman, the council secretariats will now have more proactive role to do in addressing the immediate needs of communities within those constituencies. So these are platforms that we need to take up. And I think we will urge the Senate, we will urge the National Assembly and the State Houses of Assembly, maybe, to ask their constituent members to go back to their constituencies. Invite everybody that is aggrieved within the local government constituencies to come and have this sort of dialogue at that level, so that from there we can present them, whether if it is a local government matter, it should be presented at the local government level. If it is a state matter, it should be presented at the state level. If it is a national issue, it should be presented at the national level. And with this, we'll be able to influence the policies, programs, and activities of government so that we can see a better functioning and much more representative, listening to the entire citizens of the country.
Do you recommend something like a regular avenue or platform for dialogue between, the state and some, I'm not talking about unions now, but some interest.
Town hall meetings.
Yes, those
yes.
What you call the town hall meetings.
Exactly. Most of the members of the National Assembly, the state assemblies, and they have what they call constituency offices.
A lot of times,
yes.
The people say they hardly see their representatives.
So that was why I was very specific by appealing to the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the State Houses of Assemblies to make this a core responsibility, at least on a quarterly basis. Organize town hall meetings within your constituencies. And from there, you will be able to influence what your local government administrations are doing and what your state governments are doing. Because many of these responsibilities lies with them. And of course, there are other organs within the public space, within those local places that have significant role to play, both in terms of the economic development, by engaging the entrepreneurs, by engaging the farmers, by engaging the livestock producers, by engaging other professionals that are, resident within those constituencies to come together and innovate. Because we really need a lot of innovation, and we have to do this. So by engaging all the stakeholders within these local constituencies, we'll be able to build the economy from below, like the DG has earlier said. Many of these economies that we see advancing, they're not built at the federal level. They are built from the grassroots moving up. If we improve crop productivity, we improve livestock productivity, we improve the management of our natural resources at the grassroots level, there will be wealth creation at the local environment. And this wealth will scale up to the national level.
Thanks a lot. Let's go over to Daniel Boyle in London. I believe he's still very much there. When you look at what's been going on, not just the last few days, I'm talking about generally in the last couple of years, how responsive has administrations, and this I don't mean any particular, and I don't mean at the national level, I mean go down to the sub-nationals and local governments. How responsive have administrations been in responding to issues concerning the citizenry?
Well, I think that there are no one-side interpretation or solution, because localities differ. Mode of communication also differs. This is also without prejudice to the cultural affiliation and tendencies of individuals. But generally speaking, the essence of government is to carry the people along. So whichever way you go about it, government must be able to communicate its intention and programs in a way and manner that it can easily be consumed by the people that the government is leading. So, for example, since 1999, when we had the local government, and then later we had problems when Algon conceded the authority to the states, we find that government now, continue to exist between the state and the federal government. So there was no government at the local level. Meanwhile, 60% of the national life of the citizenry is at the local level. The insecurity became exacerbated because of the local government, the lack of government at the local government. And then with this financial autonomy, it is believed that it will stimulate economic activities at local level, and we'll be able to have government at that local level. So that means the functionality of the local government will bring, is it not just accessibility, but it will bring what government is doing right to the doorstep of the people. But not just like you said, not just federal government, but state, we find that sometimes when government is speaking, the government is speaking in a language that the people don't understand. So, for example, when people are complaining about hunger and government is talking about technology, then you know there is no communication. When the people are talking about lack of water or poor health condition at the local level, and the government is talking about infrastructure, then there is no proper communication. But the whole idea of democracy is a process. That's why every year in America, when they have State of the Union address, you will hear them say that the American government is working towards a perfect union. There is always a learning process, and I believe that this planned protest is beginning to open the ears of government at all levels to understand that you don't have to wait until there are threats or anything before you begin to listen to the demands of the people, because the people believe that they are speaking and the government is not listening. So the democracy is all about learning. We're all learning. Government is learning. People are learning. But at every stage of this democratic experiment or experience, there must be communication in a way and manner that those who are leading will lead with people following them. Because there is this adage that says that if you are leading and nobody is following, then you are simply taking a walk.
Now, let's extend this a little bit further. And do you think that too much is attributed to the central government, the government at the center, the national government. I mean, everything was taken to the doorstep of the federal government. You think there's an undue concentration on what the administration at the center does, while ignoring a lot, as you have just mentioned now, about what can be done and ought to be done at the lower levels?
I believe that that is, in fact, the main problem, and it is often influenced by governors, and they do that on purpose. When it comes to laying claim on resources, you hear the state government talking about true federalism and the need for the federal government not to interfere in their own affairs, especially when the president talks about financial autonomy. They will say, no, don't infringe on our right to work with the local government, because they want the resources in their hands and they want all of the resources and the control. When it comes to governance and responsibility, they point at the federal government as if we're running a unitary system of government. And I say that because at this time, assuming there is a proper understanding of the workings of government, I'm telling you that these protests will be in the states of the federation and not at the center. But you can see that even in states where the governors have not been able to do anything with the increased allocation, people aren't looking at their governors. They're looking at the president. So if your wife offends you at home, the president is responsible. When mosquito flies across a place in the village, the president is responsible. Virtually every aspect of life that calls for responsibility at the state level, they point to the president. But when it comes to laying claims on resources, they believe that they have that true federalism. And I have said it, and it bears repeating, that in Nigeria today, governors are more powerful than the president, because the governors play a pivotal role in every facet of governance in the country. They determine House of Assembly members. They determine the appointment of judicial branch of government at the state level. Chairman, they determine that. Then also they determine the people we send to the National Assembly, House of Representatives, or Senate. They determine who the president appoints as ministers, as MDG heads. They determine who are the ambassadors. They determine the federal judges. So there is virtually no aspect of the funds to the state. More than 90% of those states have not moved an inch in delivering good governance to their people, even with the increased allocation. The problem is from the state. This is my position.
All right, we'll take a short break here. When we return, there'll be more on dialogue. And at that time, hopefully, we'll open the phone lines. Means you can join in the conversation in the studio. So stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
In a land of peace and harmony, we cherish our freedom and unity. But around the world, we've seen how protests can spiral into chaos. What starts as a peaceful protest can sometimes end in anarchy, tearing communities apart.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days.
So those who experience it will run away from it.
Let's learn from these experiences. Let's value dialogue over destruction. Together, we can build a brighter future. Let's choose unity. Let's choose peace. Join us in the Peaceful Future Initiative, because together we can make a difference.
What will banking look like in the future? For over a century, we've been growing to meet the needs of an ever-changing world, delivering unique solutions to help our customers reach increasingly bigger dreams. Innovating to create an exciting new world of convenience and freedom, where what you can achieve is only limited by your imagination. Opening up new, more inclusive channels for commerce. Empowering a new generation to reach beyond their dreams and grow into the giants they were always meant to be. we're helping to create a future where the possibilities are infinite, the opportunities borderless, and where the world looks up to Africa. Let's awaken the giant in you. You first. First Bank.
Nigeria, a land of rich culture and diverse voices, where every voice matters. In times of disagreement, let's choose dialogue over discord. Together, we can find solutions through understanding and respect. Let's build a stronger Nigeria, one conversation at a time. Dialogue, not protest. Unity, not division. Nigeria, united in dialogue.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
All right, thanks for staying with us. And this segment is when we open the phone lines and you can get to join the conversation. And we say this every Tuesday. If you're joining us tonight via phone and you call in and your call gets through, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we encourage you to just go straight to the point so others can also get on the platform and air their views. And if you're calling in, we ask you not to bother too much about the greetings. It's just a mere hello would do. That would serve the purpose. So the numbers to call will be on your screen. Now you can take advantage of those and call in. And this time we're starting off with another of our reports. We have a report from Abakaliki.
Harmony and peaceful coexistence are the bedrock of every ideal society where development thrives. However, from time to time, disagreements occur among members of a society, community, state, or nation, which escalate and breed conflicts, dispute, and sometimes communal wars if not checked. Although Ebonyi State, no doubt, has recorded varying degrees of unrest, dispute and communal clashes that claimed lives and property in previous years, efforts by the state government in mitigating the crisis cut across alternative dispute resolution, including dialogue, establishment of Ebonyi multi-door courthouse for negotiation, conciliation, and arbitration, as well as a mediation center for indigent persons who cannot afford to pay for legal services.
We have intentionally engaged some communities that have had conflict to see how it can be resolved outside courtroom litigation. And I give you an example, the Ebola crisis was effectively resolved through dialogue. Now the Abomege Ishinkwa crisis has been resolved through dialogue. The stage where we are now is the permanent demarcation of the land in dispute.
The Attorney General of the state and other stakeholders, including a legal practitioner and cleric, further harped on the need for citizens to de-emphasize litigation against one another while advocating amicable settlement of disputes, except on severe cases.
In a civil, cases that doesn't require, going to court, you shouldn't go. You can now involve some people, either the church leaders and friends, neighbors, that that can handle issues objectively. Then you settle it with a love.
It is worthy of note that since the establishment of the Ebonyi State Mediation Center in July 2023, 68 cases that lingered in conventional courts have been resolved. In Abakaliki, Fortunate Ozo.
All right, we're back here in the studio, and we'll expand the conversation to greater frontiers. And let me turn to the Director General of the National Orientation Agency. A lot has been said about why Nigerians to have a rethink about the process of engaging their leaders. As an agency, what you have in place to further drive discussions on a greater scale between those who are churning out the policies and those who are the intended beneficiaries of the policies of government.
Okay, so the first thing to do is to recognize the position of the youth in the whole scheme. We're in a country where, if you look at the demographics, 35% and below constitute 75% of our population. I mean, if you take that up to 45 years and below, you're having 93% of our population. So anybody that is older than 45 constitutes just 7%, you know, to the oldest person in this country. So that's a critical mass, a very important segment of the Nigerian population. So any policy of government, whether ministry or agency or institution, that is not youth-centric would be missing the dominant, you know, age group in this country. So that's the first thing we recognize in NOA, National Orientation Agency. And so then again, you also must understand, you know, their peculiarities and how they want to be, you know, engaged. The youth, very intelligent youth, technological savvy, and they want to catch fun even when they are doing whatever they are doing. So you have to ensure that you create all this kind of atmosphere for you to be able to get their attention. So in the last 6 months, what we have done first and foremost is to connect with them. Social media is one of their play fronts. Not only social media. I mean, we can make the mistake and think everything starts and ends on the social media. But huge chunk of our youth are actually outside of the social media. As of today, you have 17.1% of our population are actively engaged on the social media. You know, that's just about 36 million of us. So a huge chunk is actually outside of the social media. So we have established a very strong partnership, you know, on the social media by strengthening our engagement with them. And I can say in this country today, I doubt if there's any government institution that has the kind of technology we have acquired. We play now with artificial intelligence. That is what is driving technology, you know, in the rest of the world, especially when it comes to communication and collaboration. So today, in NOA, you can pick up your device, whether phone, laptop, or your whatever device you use, and log into NOA's website and ask, you know, engage in conversation, ask about any government policy, and you have a voice prompt that will have conversation with you, tell you exactly what you want to know. You can chat, and it will give you answer.
Okay.
You know, on government policy.
All right, we'll ask you to hold on there. We'll continue from that bit. Let's try and get in this call. First caller tonight happens to be Umar Anachi from Birnin Kebbi, a regular on this program. Hello, Umar, go ahead. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. Thank you. My name is Umar, calling from Birnin Kebbi. You see, Mr. Ciro, the whole aim of this protest, even if it is not done, has been achieved. The whole aim of the protest has been achieved. Therefore, I'm appealing to Nigerians. Even the labor, they will shift ground by postponing the negotiation. I'm appealing to the youth and to the general public of Nigeria to suspend this protest, to give government. You see, there are many things that this government had proposed. Just like the first time in the history of this country where it has been directed that petroleum product and crude oil be sold in Naira. It's going to be sold to local refineries in Naira. And the first time in the history of this country where the refined product could be sold in Naira. The first time in the history of this country where the local government autonomy is achieved. So what this protest need? The first time in the history of this country where student loans are proposed. There are many things I can count and count and count. So the first thing is to shift this protest to allow the government to achieve those things. I saw it on the social network, even though it is not authenticated, that I have seen 9 important refineries are going to close down because of this act of Mr. President. Therefore, I'm appealing to Nigerians to have sense of reasoning, to see that this protest is hold, to see that this protest is postponed to certain limit. It is obvious with the security report we have, there are certain unscrupulous elements that want certain things, just like what the man from London have mentioned. He said Nnamdi Kanu should be released. It is not part of the protest. And the issue about governance, it is not part of the protest. So there are many things that they have inserted in the protest to make it violence. May God continue to bless our country. Let me stop here.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Zero.
Thank you very much, Umar. Thank you. Yes, DG, back to you. People can log in.
Yeah, they can log in and then have conversation. Then you can ask practically about any policy of government, and you can get educated, because there's huge knowledge gap in terms of what people know about what this government is doing. And it is the job of NOA to communicate government policies, programs, and projects.
Okay.
You know, so, but we also, by Thursday this week, we are launching the second round of what we call gamification. You know, it's about the youth. It's what they love to do. So we have a set of 100 questions around government policies that is coming in form of quiz. So you log on, you attempt the quiz, and when you finish, whatever you get correctly gives you hear time instantly on your phone. So we incentivize the process of getting them educated about what the government is doing. So these are part of how we are engaging with the youth.
That's beyond the social media now. The other ones who do not have the...
Exactly. That's why I said the huge chunk are also outside of the social media. Yes. Now, so what we have done, we have huge database in NOA today. If you go to NOA and say, I'm from so local government, and who is the chairperson or secretary of the Barber Association in my community, they will tell you and give you his contact, or Onion Seller Association, or Yam Seller, or Mechanic, or vulcanizer, or whatever. All these artisanal and trade associations, we have the database. And so we are engaging with their members through their executive members. So in every local government, our staff in every local government that we call COMOs, that is Community Orientation and Mobilization Officers, in every local government, they are on the WhatsApp platform with all these people, and they are engaging directly with them, educating them on what government is doing, and ensuring that they take that to their meeting, which some of them do fortnightly. And so this gets to the grassroots. So we are dealing at that level. Besides the fact that our staff in local government and the state are carrying out a lot of advocacy. Advocacy visits to the traditional rulers, to the women leaders, to youth leaders, to market leaders, to all sorts of leaders and members of the society. So we are reaching out to all of these people, and we are getting feedback, because it's also part of our mandate to get feedback to government. For instance, on even this issue of protest, we have a responsibility for non-kinetic operations. And so what we have done is to get civil intelligence, information that we have gathered. For every single local government, we can tell you what the situation is regarding the issue of protest. And this is being turned into government to serve as input into whatever policy and decision they are going to make in terms of reaction to this. So we have been able to establish all kind of platforms, based on people's different media taste, their consumption taste. And then we are relating with them and getting information across to every segment of the society. On weekly basis, every Friday, we publish what we call the Explainer. That is meant for the elite. And every Friday, it captures the policies of government within the week and break it down for people in a simple language and for people to keep abreast of what government is doing. So we have been able to segment the society based on their media content consumption habit, and we have been able to relate with them based on that. And we continue to improve on that as we go along.
Thanks a lot. It's back to the phones. We have Ahmed calling in from Abuja. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Good evening.
Hello, Siri.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. My name is Ahmed Kennedy Gabriel. I am the spokesperson, Chartered Institute of Professional Printers of Nigeria. The issue of protests or no protests, all is in the hands of the federal government and the state government collectively. No doubt, the government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing a lot, no doubt, for those of us that understand what it means to have concrete developmental progress. But a lot still needs to be done. We don't expect him to change all the wrongs overnight or within 1 year. Even 4 years is too small for it. But and the government also know that for the people to be alive while the policies and progress is being made, you need to reach out to the people. And enough is not being done in reaching out to the people. Look at the time in which the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs came in. See that period, see that gap in which she did whatever she did and she was removed. Ordinarily, the government would have used through that office to reach out to a lot of people. And even when she was removed or suspended, nothing was done or has been done to have reached out to a lot of people. Now, we have this protest being scheduled, which is just like an emergency. Yes, the people have the right to protest. But you see, speaking English is not enough to solve this problem. There are practical ways. If you say you go online, you put this program, people should go online. Is it everybody that is online? The answer is no. We have various associations, various platforms to reach out to people through their leader, just like the director of National Orientation just said. But you know what? When this organization or association rise to these government offices, you will never even hear response, even 1 year. Sometimes, till the government finish, you will never hear response. So until when they take practicality in following our problem, I'm telling you, we will still be at one position rolling. But most importantly, we are using this medium to beg the federal government that wherever our people, especially those of us that are printers, we are private people, those of us that our organization run privately, wherever printing is located, they should see how they will help us protect the place, sending police within these days. Because we in Abuja here, in central area, we're getting intelligence that some persons will be vandalizing our offices. So we are using this medium to beg them. Thank God we are in Abuja. And the Inspector General of Police is listening to this program. And all the security agencies. Wherever we are, apart from us, other people should be protected. Thank you, sir.
Right. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, let's come back to the studio here. And again, from what he has said, there's need for engagement with groups and organizations within the country. And these are not even limited to professional bodies. Like you here, you set up the Paras Soccer Federation at one point in time. We were president. And also, you in your opening comments, you talked about people with disabilities also being very vulnerable in protests that turn violent because depending on the challenges, how do you begin to take care of yourself? So others have also said that the security agencies should not only be talking about stopping protesters, but also protecting people who are ordinarily, going about their own businesses. Well, what do you have to say to that?
Well, thank you very much. I think the security job is to protect the lives and the property. In as much as your right begins or ends, that's where another person's rights begins. And I think the security have to be professionals. For you to identify those who are on the side of violence and also identify those who are in the side of participating. For instance, you may find out in a market, half of the businessmen are not interested in the protest, but halfway before coming to that place, they are blocked. And the next thing, their properties be looted. I have experience in Kano when the governor aroused, demolition. The people and the looters, before government make one step, they make 100 steps. Clear everything overnight. So I think for us to avoid that, the government and the security, they should be able from now, before tomorrow and next tomorrow, be able to settle or put security at all the necessary areas, especially businesses and the government properties. Because nobody knows where are they coming from. Mountain roadblock from maybe one of the two exits or the whole exits coming into Abuja. Those people may be already in Abuja now. And they may start from here and they, before, they have entered all the markets. So I think the security needs to do more. But, the other area of concern is not only that. The government, like DG says, the government needs to do more. Sincerely, let me tell you in another area which I have experience. I'm into rice business, but the engagement between government and the rice millers is not there. For instance, okay, borders are open. Billions and billions have been established in the business. And now, borders are open. Are they bringing a paddy or are they bringing rice? The government should have reached an engagement with the people who have already invested in that business. I'm sure government will understand their problems and solve it before even going to be a policy. And likewise, other areas. And the youth of today who are complaining or trying to disturb everybody, they have put the whole nation at still stand because everybody is afraid. Nobody knows what is going to happen tomorrow. But if government have been able to enlighten before now, it is his work. Thank God he's around with us. All the ministers, we should have a forum where everybody at a monthly or every time get engagement with media, explain his policies, where are the achievements, where are the loopholes, what can we do tomorrow? Many Nigerians doesn't know what federal and the state government are doing sincerely. I think we need to engage through dialogue, through town hall meetings, through other means, so that Nigerians will understand clearly the policies and also appreciate it. That will seriously help us to avoid any future problems of this nature.
All right, thank you. We have a caller on the line, Adekunle calling from Ogun State. Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Go ahead.
I said, good evening, sir.
Evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Go ahead.
I really appreciate this discussion going on. God Almighty will continue to be with us and protect our country. Currently, the federal government is really spending billions of naira, trillions of naira to do a lot of things for the masses. But are this program reaching the people? That's exactly where the problem lies. Federal government is spending billions to do a lot of palliative, to do a lot of things, but are the programs reaching the people designated this thing for? That's the only thing this government is having. The problem of dissemination of information reaching the masses, the real people. So now what we need to do is the National Assembly has a lot of things to do to modify our constitution so that each state government must develop their potentials so that everybody in a state, everybody is looking onto Abuja now, but each state has a lot of things to develop, to raise funds, to do a lot of things for the people. But everybody is now on federal government neck, which is not supposed to be so. So we have to develop our potentials from state, federal government, and state level, so that people will benefit whatever that is coming on from the federal government too. So as at now, even if Tinubu administration is spending trillions of naira to do a lot of things for the people, if we end in offices, it will not go to the people, the right people. So that is just the issue. Everybody has the right to protest, but destruction of property is not allowed. Nobody will condone such a thing. If everybody see what is going on in Kenya recently, nobody will support such a thing. We must rise to this occasion once and for all that National Assembly has a lot to do on this matter, to amend our constitution so that the state government should develop their potential, so that nobody will be looking for Abuja. All the state governors are not doing anything to support this federal government. They are only looking for an Abuja to see money every month. Where is the money going? Where are the money going? People are suffering. We must confess. People are really suffering. So God will bless you and continue to make unity our main purpose. Good night.
Thank you. Good night. Well, engaging the citizenry on various platforms in solving issues or nipping in the bud potential trouble areas that may lead to situations like this. What has been your experience, and how effective can this be?
Yeah, I think some of the challenges, communication, possibly what is not on the national televisions like the NTA and other broadcasts might not be known to many other Nigerians. Some of the engagements, like the Director General said. In fact, if I can just give an example, just this past Saturday, we were in one of the local governments in Kaduna State. We were with one of the paramount rulers, with all his village heads, his district heads. And the officers of the National Orientation Agency were there from the local government, and we were discussing these issues. We were speaking to the youths, and then from there we went to one of the remote villages within that local government to speak to lots of young Nigerians on various issues of security, commitment to agriculture, the need for youths, to dedicate themselves to entrepreneurship, participate in governance and other diverse issues. So some of these grassroots activities that are being carried out may not necessarily be reported in the mainstream media. But I think a lot is going on at the state levels by the various government agencies, whether they are agricultural extension agents, whether they are information officers, local government information officers, or whether they are officers of federal agencies like the National Orientation Agency, the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. They're doing a lot at the grassroots level, and they're engaging women, they're engaging young people, and they're doing quite a lot. That's not to underplay what the federal support could provide. Again, I think there is need for much more robust and support for some of the federal government institutions, agencies at the local government level, especially where they exist. Some of them that have maybe some more robust funding, for example, through either statutory federal allocations, perform better at the local government levels than others. But certain ones, like the National Orientation Agency, I know the level of funding, particularly for local government offices, for the, capacitating the local government officials to be able to organize monthly, let's say, engagements in various districts of the local government is quite low. And I think this is a big challenge for the National Assembly, because one of the things we understood is that building a citizenry, young people with sound moral values, is as important as developing any other infrastructure. Because whatever you put, once the people do not have the right values, they do not have the right mindsets, they are not committed to peace, they are not committed to entrepreneurship and hard work, they will destroy all of those facilities irrespective of how expensive they are. So we really need to give a lot of attention to value orientation for our citizens. And I think But himself and Mr. Boala, he has earlier mentioned about this, the need for this broad national framework of development, like a vision, which we always say that as a country, we really need to have an overall national vision that every citizen of Nigeria will subscribe to, and have core values that every Nigerian will say, yes, these are our core values. So we are doing quite a lot, and then there are other, some of the peace building agencies that we have in some of the states, and happily many states are coming on board, putting in peace commissions that are charged with the mandate of engaging young people, engaging women, engaging all of these people in the processes of governance, and the open accountability platforms in some of the states are also engaging the citizens. So all of these things are ongoing, but they are contributing to a number of things and some of the dynamics.
Okay. All right, let's go back to the phones. We have Ahmed calling in from Kaduna. Hello.
Yeah, Ahmed calling from Kaduna.
Hello, Ahmed.
Yes, hello, good evening, Mr. Cyril.
Good evening, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be very fast, Mr. Cyril. I feel I've never been a supporter of protests, and honestly, I feel protest is the only language that the Nigerian government listens to. A lot of dialogue has been going on. People have been crying, complaining. Nothing has been done. But the mere mention of protest in just a span of 3 weeks, I was shocked the way that everything carried this protest on the news, even international media. So it means that it has already passed the message to the government. So now it's left for the government to act, because if another protest follows this one, it may not be a good one. We don't want any revolution. We don't want destruction. We don't want anything. But this protest, I believe, is the chance for the Nigerian youth to use their voices. I pray it goes well as planned. Of course, there will always be elements from the dark who would come out and try to hijack and do their own bad stuff. But this is the chance that the youth have to express themselves, their worries, things that are happening. Mr. President needs to know that things are very bad. People are dying, people are hungry, people are suffering. And the saddest part is these people who are suffering are not brought to discuss such things. When I see people on TV, it's always representatives from places within the metropolis, not from the suffering areas. So I really think this protest has reached the government, and they should be very careful and take this thing very seriously so that they can, if at all, because I know the game of politics, if they really want 2027 to continue with APC, they should try and do something in this short time that they have. Trust me, if they do well, nobody would think twice about voting APC out. Okay? That is all I have to say, and I do hope the protest goes well. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Right. Thank you, Ahmed. And let's take what Ahmed has said to Daniel Boala, who is in London. He heard him, and I'd like to tie that with an earlier statement by one of the callers who said, well, they believe that the purpose for the proposed protest has been achieved because the government is now talking about all these things. So, well, what's your response to that? And of course, for some of them who still think they should go ahead with it, what are your thoughts on that?
Point on social media with the fear of possible violence if the protest goes on, sort of saying, I won't say fear or or shockwaves to the government, but government became more attentive. I think that we're not giving President Bola Ahmed Tinubu enough credit, because some of the things they are raising now, he has started implementing it long time ago. Like this local government autonomy, which will deliver governance at the local level. He started it long before this agitation. But in the last few weeks, and especially 1 or 2 weeks, when this conversation around planned protests became even more stronger, release one policy implementation or the other, just for the purposes of meeting this yearning of the people. My thing is, I wish that this group have leadership that will put together what they believe to be the specifics of what their demands are, and then approach the federal government with it, so that the federal government will agree with them on the timeline. So, for example, part of your demand, there are demands that are immediate, like probably release of funds or policy direction from the government that has to do with executive action. But there are also other demands in their 1 year. For example, some of the call for constitutional reform. Constitutional review process is not what you finish in 5 days or 6 months. It takes time. Now, if they have a leadership and there is this understanding, it means that when you say you have 5 items, the government will point out to you those ones that can be between now and the next 3 months, and those ones that will be in 1.5 years or 2 years. You can go back and begin to measure as the government starts to implement whether those deliverables are actually consistent with what you're talking about. But a lot of them feel like if they go to the street, they dance in the street and make all the noise. Some of them even believe if they go ahead and destroy one property or the other, then the government will be afraid. The problem with that is that once there is a violence that tends to break down law and order, the government has a duty by law to enforce. Enforcing the law, that the situation will become more chaotic. If you look at Kenya, that's exactly what happened. Even though there is a marked difference between Ruto and President Tinubu. In the case of Ruto, when these guys were given those signs and the demands, he took them for granted. But in the case of President Bola Tinubu, he has started implementing some of these things already. Now, I can predict what will happen. The good thing about the advance notice given to government has prepared the government for the protest, has also prepared the people for the possibilities of the outcome. You're going to find that this protest may not have a lot of people out in the street because it is clear to them that this might turn violent. And I believe that parents and younger ones who knows the consequence of violent protests might decide to stay at home. I just have a little bit of observation as to this opportunity that created for the minister. When they wrote the letter and they said they wanted to use the national stadium and they needed the facilities in place, he would have jumped at that. Because the idea of protest that has the trappings of violence is the one that is done in the street, which restrict the right of others, commuters, workers, and all that. But if they choose a place like a stadium, it should be a breakthrough to the government, because all you need to do is make sure that you make those facilities available and then cover the place to security forces. They can stay there forever. They will make the point it will be covered, and the government can even get to engage with them much easily. But when he said no to it, it means you're going to find a lot of people in the street and other places. The government is prepared and the government is communicating. And I believe that the people will see sense in that. Nigeria is too big, much more than Kenya, to have that kind of problem and then you curtail that within a short time. We just have to avoid violence.
All right. we'll return to you. Unfortunately, the connection is beginning to be a little bit erratic, but we'll return to you shortly. Let's take this call from Ambrose, who's calling in from Abuja. Hello.
Hello, my name is Akbar Ambrose. I'm calling from Abuja.
Go ahead.
My point is this. All the speakers in the House have made very important points. Like the speaker that mentioned that the House of Rep and speakers should go back to their communities, communicate with them, dialogue with them, know what is going on in their communities. Most times when we vote these people in, they don't come back to us to tell us what the government is doing, the policies the government is putting on. So we are not in the light to know anything that is going down. So how much can we tell the sufferings we are suffering? Who should we communicate with? We don't see that one tariff has been raised up, fuel has been stepped up. All these things, nobody has communicated. See the situation we are in. That is why these things have to go up, so that maybe for a period of time, then these things will come down too. Nobody is telling us anything, and this thing just coming on board like that. And because we have no voice, we accept them every day. Should we just keep accepting those things and suffer every day? Okay, good. Another point is this. I don't support protest. I've not been on the road for protest for one, but I'm a youth of almost 33 years. I'm a graduate. I'm into tailoring in Abuja here. Like, some past months ago, we were buying machines from government officials. These are machines that the government has provided money that they should be shared free to people that are trying to build themselves on the street. Same senators, same House of Rep members, same top government officials, embezzle these things, come back and sell to us. So yes, the government is spending these funds. These same governors, there's no medium to reach a common man in Nigeria. So it's just like doing a project and not supervising what is going on. So you're not doing anything. So let the government employ ways that this thing will reach the common man in Nigeria. It will be better, because nobody is reaching us. The youth, nobody is reaching us.
Okay. All right.
Once you are not in a political office, a political party, you are not going to benefit anything. Once you don't have a godfather, you will not benefit anything. So once you don't have connection in Nigeria, you are not benefiting anything. So what do you expect the youth to do? And you cannot tell us that the leaders of this protest should come on board and say, yes, I'm a leader. Because by the time you mention that, you see that security operatives will take you off.
Okay.
And the more they take youth off the street, because they say they are leaders of this protest, the more they endanger the communities and Nigeria at whole, because you are fueling our hearts. You are making us feel bad that a common man don't have words, they cannot speak.
Okay.
So this is wrong. So the man in UK that is talking, yes, you are making sense. But can you step up and say you are a leader of this protest? You will not say that, because you know that the security operators will go after you, and they'll just put you into prison or something else.
Okay.
So we don't have a voice. This is the only way we can come to the street and maybe say something and the government will hear. Let the agency, the chairman of the agency, let him. Okay, you have the contact of maybe a chairman of the organizer, an annual teller. How are you people reaching there? You come to us, we collect this information, we go back and we don't say anything. So how is the government encouraging or reaching the common man?
Okay. All right.
Please,
thank you. We're beginning to run out of time, but I'll just quickly go back to Daniel Boala in London for a short while for him to respond to this issue that Ambrose raised and to make his closing comments. Now, if you're there, he said maybe one of the reasons why leaders of the leaders have not come out to say they are leaders of those who want to protest is they're scared that if they show their faces, they'll be clamped into detention. That's on one side. And again, a feedback mechanism from the led to the leaders. I'd like you to put that all with your closing comments. Thank you.
I do not think it is entirely true that the government is going to arrest individuals that will identify themselves as leaders of the protest group, because the Nigerian Labour Congress is also an interest group. And the Nigerian Labour Congress have on several occasions had nationwide protests that ground the government. But because it is an interest group recognized, the government cannot afford in any way, shape, or form arrest the leaders and lock them up, because doing so would mean it is a correct slap against democracy and the processes that democracy tolerates. It is the lack of leadership that makes it easy for the government to arrest individuals, because then there is no accountability. Then it is easy to tag them with all kinds of crime. But when you have an organized body, look at all interest groups in Nigeria, whether Pengasin, any interest group that come together as an organized group makes it difficult for government, if they have sinister plans, to say they will arrest them. But above all, when you make up your mind to be a comrade, somebody who is fighting for a cause, usually you have to prepare your mind for the possibilities of being locked up. But that you've made up your mind, if this is what it takes for you to fight for what you believe in, and then you will achieve. When government knows you're afraid of being arrested, that is when government can deal with you. But if they know that you fear no arrest, then the government will be able to sit on the table. My closing remark would be that I agree with the last caller when he talked about lack of proper communication between government and the people. But government is continuum. Government is a process. Sometimes the way government has been communicating, which worked in the past, may not work now. With the advent of new media, the government must find ways of reaching out to these millennials and Gen Zs in a way that you can reach out to them effectively.
Right, so thank you very much, Daniel Buala, legal practitioner, joined us from London via Zoom. Thank you so much for your contributions tonight, and we wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, as always. Thank you.
Good night. Well, one last word from Salim Omale, quickly, in less than 1 minute.
I think the issues have been put very clearly. We urge Nigerians, our young populations throughout the country, we urge parents, religious leaders, and all community leaders to impress on the larger society. Let's adopt the existing dialogue mechanisms. Let's engage on these challenges, and let's minimize the expression of these issues through protests on the streets.
Right, thank you. Ms. Bao Lawandidi.
Thank you very much. I think I will urge the all Nigerians to be calm and to also support the government of the day so that we can achieve a lot of it. But also, throughout our discussion is dialogue with women, dialogue with youth. They are marginalizing us. We should have a forum where people with disability should be engaged, because it's very serious. Most of the programs and policies of government, sometimes the agencies forget about people with disability, and whereas we are the people who mostly need government intervention. I think that's very, very important. And also, I have to appreciate the government at this junction, especially the president, by appointing person with disability as his SA, and also, the Commission of People with Disability, and we'll look forward for more opportunities for people with disability. I wish Nigerians the best.
Okay, thank you. Well, DJ engaging with the people and bringing them to the round table, as they say.
Yeah, it's our responsibility to do that, and Nigerians actually deserve that. We've gone through a lot together as Nigerians, not just starting now, but they say before you can make an omelette, you have to break the egg. We are going through the process of reform. Reform do come with pains, but these are necessary reforms. And we have somebody in the saddle that is a reformer himself, and who has antecedent that we all can point at and say he can do it. We should give him a chance. Let's be patient, and then I'm sure very soon we'll all be happy about the outcomes.
Well, thank you so very much, Larry Saunilu, Director General of National Orientation Agency. And gentlemen, thank you so much for your contributions tonight. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
And that's our program tonight. We thank you for being with us. Next week, we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.